Continuing with our inspirational series highlighting the impact women are making, especially for International Women's Day on March 8th, we've seen the activist with March founder Leah Baroudi and the author with Elizabeth Kefis. Now we welcome the businesswoman.
Thank you, Linda. Joining us today is Inspirational Woman of the Week, Rana El Khoury, the general manager at the Gray Hotel in downtown Beirut. She is one of the few women to manage a hotel in Lebanon and the first to hold this position at Campbell Gray Hotels. Khoury was able to advance the position of general manager just 2 years after joining Le Gray in 2011 as director of development and operations manager. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Youmna.
I want to start with, I know you took over during a crisis that was described as the worst crisis in the hotel business, and yet you were able to maintain an occupancy rate of 65% when many hotels in the country were suffering. How did you do it?
It was quite a challenge, actually. A challenge that you can never take on your own, because at the end you have teams that are behind you, and you really need to pull people together to believe in what you're doing so that they can support you and move forward. And I think the biggest impact was to make sure that our guests would never really feel that they're in a country where there are crises, or that we were faced with tough decisions sometimes that we needed to take, whether to get, I would say, a little bit innovative with what measures we would take on the grounds. So I have to say that they were quite good sports. The team pulled together. They saw that at the end their jobs were safe, and this is what the most important part is, that when you're living in a country that's going through crisis, if they have to bring into work what they're living at home, you need to make them forget this pressure and let them enter the hotel world.
You said you talk about teamwork, and teamwork is very important in the hotel world. Can you give me an example of what, for somebody who's going through a crisis who wouldn't know what to do, what would you recommend in terms of this?
What I would recommend really is living the day-to-day and making people feel that they're protected. That's the most important part. Being innovative and involving the team in certain decisions that need to be taken, because a lot of times they're living the grounds, they're living day after day what the guest sees, what the guest hears, what the guest, the feedback that they would give us. And most of our ideas, I would say, come from them. Mm-hmm. Because when you're listening to them, they would tell you, I noticed I could do this. This would help cut some cost.
What would make a good general manager, according to you? What makes a good general manager?
I would say someone that listens a lot. This is basically what we do. We listen to our teams, we listen to our guests. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there are certain tough decisions to be taken, but by being transparent and explaining why are we taking these decisions, a lot of times you'd be surprised by how people will back you up and go all the way with you.
Okay. Did you ever feel like you had to double up efforts to be taken seriously as a woman in a high-level position?
I think I wouldn't call it double up, but I would definitely say that I had to know my job inside out so that I would never be caught, I would say, short-handed, not knowing what I was talking about. Okay. You can't really, when you know what you're talking about, I think a lot of times people will not question, and especially when they see the results, people will back you up. And
any discrimination in the business world?
I think as a woman, mm-hmm. you will encounter discrimination, but it's a matter of how you would actually ignore it and go on. I think sometimes we have it easy by being a woman. Sometimes you can turn this to an advantage.
How would you do that?
There's always a way a woman can use her charm, sensitivity, versus a man that is right there,
more square.
More square. Yeah. A lot of times, women can manage to say what they have to say without raising voices, without no need to scream, shout. So it's.
You're also a mother of 2.
Yes.
And for somebody who's reached a high-level position, how do you balance being a mom with a very demanding job?
I think it's all about organization. I mean, that's something very, very important. It's really knowing, setting out, saying, okay, this is how my day is going to look, and making sure that you're following your schedule. This is very important. But also dividing, meaning there's time for work and there's time for family. And this is something that
a lot of women struggle with, actually.
They do. There's always an inner struggle. There's always the worry that one will take over the other in somehow. And you always worry that if you'll give priority to your job, then your kids, your husband will react to that.
Speaking of your husband, how does your husband help out with the balance? Does he support? Does he encourage?
Yes, he's actually has been very supportive. It's not easy. The hotel business is quite demanding, as you said, and it's long hours sometimes. So yes, he has to compensate. I think my kids are now used to the fact they have a working mom, but it's also all about the quality time that we spend together when we're off of work. It's really the attention to us as a family versus when I'm on the job and I have to concentrate on my work.
Do you think growing up somebody served as an inspiration to you for you to be such a hardworking woman and at the same time want the best of both worlds? Can you remember a figure or somebody that inspired you?
You know, you're going to laugh, but my inspiration actually to go into the hotel business was initially my dad, who's in hospital business. And I one day told him I'm going into hospital management. And he said, do something more fun. I said, fine, we'll do hotels. Yeah. And he came one day when I was living in Chicago. He came to visit for a couple of weeks, and obviously almost did not see me with the level, the load of work that I had. And after I would come back and tell him, I had this story, that story, this crisis, he looked at me and said, you know what, I think hospitals could have been less stressful than hotels. But I love what I do, and it's something quite challenging, but it's always surprising. There's always something new in hotels. There's always, every day is not like the other.
Right, so there's always something new and fresh to keep it going.
Yes.
If you could address young women in the Arab world, what would be your advice to them?
My advice is to know what they want. This is the most important part, and not feel the pressure of having to be successful as a woman. I think it's important that we don't live the pressure of what we're seeing nowadays.
I'm just going to interrupt you for 1 second, because you said that we shouldn't live the pressure of today. How do you deal with the pressure of today? Because there is pressure, and we can agree on that. So how do you deal?
Actually, it's really taking a step back and analyzing. That's really taking the time to really analyze the situation before reacting. A lot of times we do have tendency to just snap at a decision or a reaction, and this is very woman.
An emotional, impulsive women.
And you learn with time that you have to sit back, analyze the situation, understand it, and then take the right way, choose the right way to go.
So for women, it would be, do not let the pressure get to you?
Yes, know what you want and do it for yourself. Do it because you are enjoying what you're doing and not because others are expecting you to do this.
And that's the motto that you live with every single day.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Youmna.
That was the manager of Le Gray Hotel, Ms. Rana El Khoury, joining us for Inspirational Women series. Back to you, Linda.
Thank you, Youmna. This marks the end